Dear viewers, our topic today is Evolution of Drama Part 2. In our previous lecture on the medieval drama, we have discussed the genesis of the medieval drama and its evolution in the miracle and morality plays. In this lecture, we are going to discuss the medieval interlude. It is a type of morality play which dealt in the same allegorical way with journal moral problems, though with more pronounced realistic and comic elements. The term interlude originally denoted a playlet performed between the courses of a banquet. In the beginning, the interlude was close to fabliaux. Gradually, it veered away from the medieval morality and turned into a secular morality play, which was marked by a comic and realistic aspect. Thus, the interlude passed through a continuous dramatic tradition and absorbed foreign influences. It is difficult to document the transition from medieval religious drama to Tudor secular drama adequately, well as the simple native drama became more secular and more sophisticated. The treatment of the concept of evil also passed through a significant development. Therefore, character of the vice changed from a diabolic temper to a purely comic figure. Now we shall discuss some of the medieval interludes to prove our point. Nature is a humanist morality play by Henry Medwall. It is notable for its lively characterization of the vices, its allusions to contemporary London. It is more sophisticated than earlier moralities. Fulgence and Lucrece is also written by Henry Medwall. It is the earliest purely secular English play that survives. It is a variation of a Latin short story. In this play, the heroine Lucretia is wooed by a rich and worldly aristocrat and by a poor but virtuous man. She chooses the poor but virtuous suitor. There is thus a morality element in the story, though it is not stressed. The play is also important because of a comic subplot in which the servants of the two suitors are rivals for the love of Lucretia's mate. This subplot is an early example of a tradition of mingling serious with comic scenes in English drama. This tradition was fully developed by Shakespeare. The nature of the four elements is written by John Rastell. It is a humanist morality play. Various allegorical characters instruct humanity in the new science and geography, with interesting reference to recent geographical discoveries. There are the usual low life scenes with the vices. John Redford's Wit and Science is another humanist morality play. It was written in 1530s. In this play, a student named Wit seeks to marry science. His adventures illustrate the ideals and difficulties of education as conceived by Redford. In John Haywood's Interludes, the emphasis is more on amusement than instruction. Witty and witless, and the play of love are lively debates between types. The play of the weather is a thinly veiled satire of King Henry VIII that was supposedly performed in his court while he was trying to get his marriage with Catherine of Aragon annulled. Ostensibly, it is an amusing presentation of how Jupiter tries to find out what weather people want and at last decides to leave things as they are. In the play called The Four Ps, a palmer, a pardoner, a quack doctor, and a peddler hold a lying competition. The palmer wins the competition when he tells a lie to defend women. The whole play is pure farce. knockabout domestic comedy with no pretense at edification. The shift of interest from salvation to education, which marked a distinction between the medieval morality play and the Tudor interlude, was accompanied by a parallel shift from religion to politics. It explains why these plays treat religion in the spirit of controversy and abandon its universal and moral dimensions, which were the hallmarks of the older moralities. King Joan is a 16th century groundbreaking English play written by John Bale. It possibly influenced Shakespeare's King John. It was the first English language play to cast a historical English monarch as a character of virtue. Abstractions and historical figures are curiously mingled in King Joan. Bale's other plays include three on biblical themes in the manner of the miracle plays and one using allegorical figures in the morality tradition. All are strongly Protestant in tone. The ethico political theme preceded Reformation controversy in English drama. Skelton's magnificence shows the rise, fall, and final repentance of a worldly prince who is seduced and in the end redeemed by allegorical figures, representing different virtues and vices. Though it ends on a conventional religious note, its main lesson is not that of the medieval moralities, but rather the Aristotelian virtue of measure or moderation. It is a humanist rather than a Christian virtue. The treatment of ethical and political themes is closely bound up with the Renaissance interest in education, particularly the education of princes. But once dramatic interest is focused on an individual, the possibilities of more exciting and more profound exploration of human fate are likely to suggest themselves, and in the end, we arrive at a new conceptions of both comedy and tragedy. The political, ethical, and religious moralities of the early Tudor period do represent a movement toward greater dramatic maturity, but the movement is not one of simple chronological development. Allegorical, biblical, and historical morality plays existed side by side in the middle of the 16th century. Protestant propagandist plays were also becoming popular. At the same time, classical influences were making themselves felt, providing new themes and a new sense of structure. Res Publica is perhaps written by Nicholas Udall. It shows a direct divergence from the theological virtues and concerns that were previously exerted by justice in the morality plays of the 15th century. The justice in Res Publica is personified as a civil force rather than a theological one. Ralph Royster Doyster is a 16th century play by Nicholas Udall. It was once regarded as the first comedy written in the English language. It is inspired by the Miles Glorious of the Roman playwright Plautus, thus bringing the braggart soldier for the first time into English drama. Royster Doyster is the braggart who courts Dame Costans, a lady of some fortune, already engaged to Gawain, good luck. His servant Matthew Merry Creek is both the parasite of Latin comedy and the vice of the morality plays. Royster Doyster's fatuous courtship ends with his defeat at the hands of Dame Costans and her lively maids. Everything ends happily, with reconciliation all around. The plot is simple enough, but it does include a complication and a resolution, and thus shows a firmer grasp on structure than had yet been displayed in an English comedy. Gammergurton's Needle was written by Mr. S. It is the second earliest extant English comedy. Here again, plotine themes and characters are domiciled in a comedy of English rural life. The plot is crude. It concerns Gammergurton's loss of a needle, out of which a variety of complications develop until the needle is accidentally discovered. But the construction in 5 acts is ingenious and effective, and the low life comedy genuinely amusing. Verse was still the regular medium for English plays, often doggerel, yet also often surprisingly lively. George Gascoigne's play Supposes is the first comedy written in English prose. It is another comedy adapted from a foreign source, this time from the Italian Ariosto's Gli Suppositi. Ariosto's play is a masterly adaptation of the form and types of Roman drama to the conditions of 16th century Italy, and it is one of the earliest regular comedies in European vernacular. And though Supposes, judged by Elizabethan canons, is in the main an exceptionally close one, Gascoigne does not hesitate to substitute a familiar native phrase or allusion where a literal rendering would be obscure. Supposes has thus a curiously deceptive air of being an original work, and its dialogue has a polish and lucidity which reminds one of Lilly's dramatic prose. Gascoigne appears to have utilized both the prose and the verse editions, but his translation is throughout in prose. His use of this medium for dramatic purposes makes Supposes a landmark in the history of English comedy. The plot concerns a student and his faithful and ingenious servant managing by disguise and intrigue to outwit the older generation so that the student finally gets his girl before the witty confusions produced by the behavior of the hero and his servant are finally cleared up. There is such a muddle of suppositions and counter suppositions on all sides that the play almost explodes in a riot of misunderstanding. This is a much more sophisticated piece of work than Ralph Royster Doyster or Gammergurton's Needle. Its Italianate subtitles and its extraordinary plays on words are far removed from the bluff humors of English rustic comedy or domestic farce. Gascoigne's play reminds us that the native popular tradition of English drama was now to be modified both by classical influences and by the tastes of more sophisticated audiences at the inns of court, the universities, the country houses of noble patrons, and the court of Queen Elizabeth. Supposes is the first of a series of witty Italianate comedies in English, which includes Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, The Two Gentlemen of Verona, and Much Ado About Nothing, in which the genre reaches its climax. To conclude, we can say that humanist influence showed itself in the educational and ethical orientations of the Tudor interludes, which were marked by the domesticating of themes from foreign writers in English comedy. The shift in emphasis clearly distinguished the humanist interlude from its medieval predecessor. Thank you very much.